Two ships touched in a harbor at almost ordinary speed. 20 minutes later, part of a city was gone. This was Halifax, Nova Scotia, on December 6, 1917. It was not a bomb dropped from the sky. It was not a naval battle. It was a shipping accident in a wartime harbor. And the real story is how much danger had already been stacked inside a crowded city before most people knew anything was wrong. History Unpacked. The facts behind the postcard. Halifax mattered because of where it sat. During the First World War, ships, supplies, soldiers, relief cargo, and munitions moved through this harbor on the Atlantic edge of Canada. To reach Bedford Basin, vessels had to pass through the Narrows, a tight channel between Halifax and Dartmouth. That geography turned a traffic problem into a disaster. On the morning of December 6th, one ship was heading in. Another was heading out. The inbound ship was the French freighter Mont-Blanc. The outbound ship was Immo, a Norwegian vessel carrying Belgian relief supplies. The collision itself was not the explosion. It was a scrape, a ship-handling failure, the kind of moment that might have ended with repairs, paperwork, and blame. But Mont-Blanc was not carrying ordinary cargo. Nova Scotia Archives says the ship carried 2,500 tons of high explosives, plus a deckload of monochlorobenzene. When Immo pulled away, sparks and flammable vapors turned the collision into a fire. The crew of Mont-Blanc knew what the city did not. They abandoned ship. From shore, people saw a burning vessel drifting in the harbor. Some gathered outside. Some watched from windows. That made the next few minutes even worse. A few seconds before 9:05 in the morning, Mont-Blanc exploded. The blast shattered the ship, tore across the harbor, and sent destruction over hundreds of acres. Windows became weapons. Houses collapsed. Furnaces and stoves set wreckage on fire. In the Richmond district and parts of Dartmouth, whole blocks were broken open in winter air. The photographs after the blast do not look like the aftermath of one ship. They look like a city after a siege. Nova Scotia Archives identifies 1,782 known dead from the disaster. More than 9,000 people were injured. For a metropolitan area of about 65,000 people, that was not just a waterfront accident. It was a civic catastrophe. And then the city had to respond while it was still bleeding. Within hours, a volunteer relief committee was organized. Survivors, police, firefighters, soldiers, sailors, doctors, nurses, and ordinary neighbors all became part of the rescue. The work was everything at once. Sheltering the homeless, identifying the dead and injured, repairing homes, building temporary housing, and figuring out how to rebuild a district that had been torn apart. Help also came from outside Nova Scotia. The Canadian War Museum notes that the United States organized a relief train with supplies, doctors, and nurses. Boston's help became so remembered that Nova Scotia still sends the city a Christmas tree each year as thanks. One story from that morning became especially famous. Railway dispatcher Vincent Coleman. The simple version says Coleman gave his life to stop an incoming train. The careful version is a little more complicated and more interesting. Nova Scotia Museum says there may be debate over whether Coleman's warning directly stopped train number 10. But his intention was clear, and his messages halted other inbound trains and alerted the railway system that catastrophe had struck Halifax. The Halifax Explosion is often remembered for its scale. The Canadian War Museum describes it as the largest man-made explosion before the atomic bombs of the Second World War. But the lesson is not only size. The first mistake was small compared with what followed. The deeper danger was a system. Wartime pressure, a crowded harbor, dangerous cargo, limited warning, and a city built close to the water that powered it. The ships collided in seconds. The consequences lasted for generations. And that is what history keeps trying to tell us. Disasters rarely begin when everything goes wrong. They begin when too many risks are allowed to sit quietly together, waiting for one spark. If you enjoy stories where the familiar version leaves out the most important details, subscribe to History Unpacked. The facts behind the postcard.